Dr. Andrew Meyerson, who works in A&E. And Dr. Andrew, you've been listening to some of the things we've been saying, some of the things that Christo was saying. Is it the case that maybe doctors, those working in the NHS, are perhaps too precious when it comes to ideas about making some big and significant changes to the system in order to fix it?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. I don't agree with the idea that the NHS needs this reform of managers, of paperwork, of we need to become more efficient. That it's a lot of the talking points that we often hear about why the NHS is struggling right now. The NHS is struggling for four main reasons. We don't have enough money. We have been underfunded for the last decade. We don't have enough staff. We're in the midst of the worst staffing crisis in NHS history. We don't have enough beds. They have been cut dramatically in the last number of decades. And we don't have enough social care. And so those four things are the major problems in the NHS. We've known about these problems in the NHS for a very long time. And yet, after 12 years in power, what are we looking at? We're looking at a government that has just buried their head in the sand, and they're well aware of all of the problems that we're facing, yet they're really just doing nothing to fix them. And so it's very frustrating being, I'm an A&E doctor working in a really busy A&E here in London, and we are seeing the system collapse around us. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking.
And you've voiced and indeed showed your frustration on social media. You tweeted about your pay, your salary, which you said works out to £14 per hour. On top of that, because you're an international doctor, you have to pay fees for your visa. And, you know, sometimes people don't have much sympathy for doctors because we think, gosh, doctors, you're on huge salaries. But that's certainly not the case for you.
That's absolutely not the case. Maybe in previous generations they had larger salaries, they had better benefits. Right now, my last paycheck was equivalent of about £14 an hour working in A&E. I've done I volunteered twice during the pandemic to be to work on the COVID wards, and now we are struggling just like everybody else in this cost of living crisis. And it's just adding insult to injury in the midst of the greatest workforce crisis in NHS history, to ask NHS staff like myself to have to pay £500 for visas just to stay here and work. I have colleagues of mine, nurses, who are applying for their indefinite leave to remain applications to be able to stay here and work and give their family some security and some certainty. And they're having to pay over £10,000 for their indefinite leave to remain applications. Yeah. I just think that we are the lowest hanging fruit in all of the problems of the NHS. If you want to fix the staffing crisis, we need to work harder on training new staff, but we also need to work harder on retaining staff.
Dr. Meyerson.
And it seems like this government just is not interested in doing anything to fix this crisis.